The shocking truth about Abraham's hidden wife, quiet Keturah's legacy revealed at 3 a.m. In the dead of night, the clock ticked eerily towards 3. Shadows danced inside the old cabin, a forgotten relic perched on the edge of the wild, whispering secrets of the past. At that moment, everything about Keturah was about to be unleashed. Who was she? A ghost of the sands of time, or a woman whose story was buried deep beneath the sands of history? A shiver ran down the spine of anyone who dared ask her name, Keturah. She was Abraham's second wife, a name brushed aside in history books, an by the way, in the scriptures. Yet, rumors swirled like a tornado, stories of her powers, her whispers that made the wind change direction. Some claimed she still roamed these woods, her presence felt but never seen. Others swore they heard her soft laugh echoing through the trees, or was it a cry? It seemed reality blurred at 3 in the morning, as the air thickened with expectation, but why was this woman forgotten? Why did her legacy flicker like a candle in a storm? And then, the strangest thing, just as the clock struck 3, a wild howling sound pierced the night, terrifying yet strangely poignant. Was it the wind? A coyote? Or something far more sinister? The air became heavy, thick with dread, gripping hearts like a vice. Imagine the townsfolk, frightful eyes wide open, exchanging nervous glances as they clutched their cups of coffee. What if she is still out there? Someone muttered, voice quaking. What does she want? Another asked, the question hanging in the thick, suffocating atmosphere. Secrets, lies, truths clawing to escape like restless spirits trapped in the dark. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Suddenly, a light flickered outside. It cut through the night like a knife, illuminating trees that had stood guard for centuries. The whispering grew louder, almost begging to be heard. The wind carried Keturah's name like a chant on the breeze. What did she leave behind? Was it a treasure or a curse? With hearts pounding, the crowd edged toward the source of the light, each step heavy with dread and curiosity. Then, from the light's glow, a figure emerged, a silhouette, hazy yet vivid against the backdrop of overwhelming darkness. Who was it? Keturah, or just a deceptive shadow? The night held its breath. What revelations waited just beyond that light? What truth lay buried with Keturah? The figure stepped closer, emerging from the fog of uncertainty. The townsfolk gasped audibly. Was it really her? Keturah? Dressed in a flowing garment that swayed gently with every movement, she seemed like both a phantom and a vision from the past, with an aura that sent chills racing down spines. Her eyes sparkled with an otherworldly glow, a stark contrast against the night's darkness. As she approached, the air changed, thick with an unshakable tension. The light flickered erratically, casting twisted shadows that danced with a life of their own. Whispers of her name mingled with the rustling leaves, blending into an eerie symphony of anticipation. Some in the crowd wanted to flee, others felt drawn to her, curiosity overpowering fear. Who are you? A brave soul finally shouted, voice breaking the silence, but it felt as hollow as the darkness surrounding them. Keturah paused, her smiles as fleeting as a breeze. I have come to reclaim what is mine, her voice echoed softly, like the faintest rustle of wind through grass. But in that instant a gust surged through the clearing, swirling leaves and whispers around her. Those who listened closely could almost hear the cries of the past that echoed behind her, haunting, desperate. With a flick of her wrist, the light brightened, revealing the forgotten relic she carried, a weathered scroll. As she unrolled it, inked words glimmered in the moonlight, both inviting and foreboding. Exclamations of shock spread amongst the onlookers. What secrets lay hidden within? The legacy she began, her tone grave, it's deeper than any of you have ever imagined. I was not just a wife, I was a guardian of truths that your forefathers feared. The words dripped with an urgency that left everyone tinged with dread and intrigue. One man from the back shouted, "What truths? What do you want from us?" Her gaze turned, locking onto him. Your hearts, your souls, they seek answers, do they not? You stand on my land, burdened by the weights of your own ignorance. History is littered with lies, they have silenced my name too long. A collective shudder passed through the group. They felt an undeniable connection to her words, a gelid truth slithering deep into their minds. What had Abraham hidden from them? Why had Keturah's voice been muffled through the ages? Tonight, she continued, her voice rising with a fervor that stirred the crowd, the veil between what is known and what is forgotten slips away. You were drawn here for a reason. Just then, lightning streaked across the sky, illuminating her figure in vivid clarity. They were right to fear what lay ahead. The air crackled with energy, alive with whispers that spoke of ancient curses and untold treasures, promising both salvation and ruin. Footsteps from the edge of the woods brought gasps, figures emerged, cloaked and murmuring, drawing closer at Keturah's beckoning. As shadows accompanied the light, the air grew thick with a palpable tension. Would they learn the truth, or would they risk awakening long-buried horrors? And just as they began to comprehend the enormity of that night, a piercing scream shattered the moment. It came from deep within the woods, a sound both chilling and primal. Everyone froze, their hearts racing. What now? Curiosity had led them here, but fear now threatened to tear them apart. Would Keturah reveal the truth buried in shadows, or would they find themselves trapped in a web of ancient secrets? What waited in the dark? Who were the figures advancing, and what did they want? The night was just beginning, and every heartbeat echoed a warning. The scream reverberated through the clearing, slicing the air like a knife. Faces turned pale, eyes darting between Keturah and the looming shadows in the forest. Uneasy murmurs swept the crowd as they clutched their loved ones, gripped by an inexplicable dread. What was that? A trembling voice broke the silence, quivering more than the leaves above. Keturah's gaze remained steady, her expression unreadable. The past doesn't want to be buried, she whispered, her lips barely moving. It will fight to be remembered. Just as she spoke, the cloaked figures stepped forward, their intentions masked but their presence heavy with foreboding. Each movement was synchronized, deliberate. Shadows danced around them, growing longer and darker, as if the night itself conspired with them. Stay back! A woman shouted, clutching her child. Panic rippled through the gathering. Keturah raised her hand. I called them, she stated, voice like honey yet laced with steely resolve. They are my guardians. With each word, the crowd's fear transformed into a thickened silence, disbelief coating their panic. Were these figures protectors or harbingers of doom? The tension surged, palpable like an electric current. The foreboding figures reached the front of the crowd, their cloaks billowing like storm clouds. One motioned with a hand, gesturing for silence. Fear not, for your salvation lies within these woods, a voice boomed, deep and resonant, as if it carried the weight of ages. Keturah knows the truth, but it is you who must decide whether to embrace it. Decide? Someone scoffed, fueled by indignation, what choice do we have? You scare us, bring us nightmares. The words fell flat against the thick air, but Keturah's eyes shimmered with an inner light. They show you the way, she said, her voice calm despite the turmoil around her. The truth is a double-edged sword, capable of cutting through the lies but can leave scars. A collective intake of breath echoed through the crowd, each eyes now seeking the familiarity of disbelief. Was history just a tale spun together with threads of deception? And who did this woman truly serve? What have you hidden from us, Keturah? A man shouted, stepping forward, his voice quavering with bravado. What does the scroll say? Tell us. We have a right to know. Before she answered, lightning crackled again. It illuminated Keturah, momentarily casting an ethereal glow around her as the storm above raged on. And in that instant, an air of authority surrounded her. She was more than just a figure from the past. She was a force, a presence to be reckoned with. The scroll bears the history of our birthplace, the truth of Abraham's legacy, she began, her voice now commanding. It speaks of the love he buried beneath secrets and shame. You think you stand on hallowed ground, but it's riddled with betrayal, twisted by his fear of losing control. Fear surged among the townspeople, they knew they had been kept in the dark. Tensions hiked, and whispers of secrets ripe for unveiling filled the air. From the forest came another eerie sound, the rustle of branches and the shuffling of feet. The cloaked figures moved, closing ranks toward Keturah. The night thickened, the unknown drawing nearer. Will you face this truth? Keturah asked, her voice rising above the tempest brewing, or will you flee, leaving history to repeat its cruel cycle? The crowd held its breath, the gravity of her words weighing heavily on their shoulders. Ahead, shadows shifted, hidden secrets clawing at the edges of light. And just then, a sudden thud echoed from the woods. Something heavy and malevolent tumbled from the dark, crashing through the underbrush. The crowd recoiled, hearts pounding in unison, eyes glued to the shadows. What else awaits us? Someone whispered, fear trailing in their voice. What's out there, lurking beyond the veil? As the darkness crawled closer, it seemed to carry an answer, one that promised not just revelations, but a reckoning that none could escape. Everyone felt the stirrings of fate. This night was just the beginning, but one question loomed larger than the rest: who would walk out of this with their spirit intact, and who would be swallowed by the unfolding chaos? The wind howled, holding its breath for the truth to crack like thunder. The thud echoed again, a monstrous sound that seemed to shake the ground beneath their feet. Keturah's heart raced, thrumming like a drum in the stillness. What had emerged from the darkness? The cloaked figures shifted, and for a moment, it felt like the forest itself held its breath. Isolated gasps broke through the whispers, the crowd parting instinctively as a figure staggered into view. A man, disheveled and drenched, his clothes clinging to him like a second skin, appeared from the deep shadows. His eyes were wild, flickering like flames, hands shaking at his sides. The electricity in the air was charged with raw fear. The townspeople recoiled, uncertain of what horror he would bring. They took her, he shouted, voice cracking as he stumbled forward. They've taken Keturah. The tension snapped, plunging the group into chaos. Shouts erupted, people clutching their children tightly, stepping back as if they could escape the storm brewing in their own hearts. Keturah felt the weight of their fear pressing down. Some gripped each other, while others faced her, searching for the truth she had so carefully shielded. I'm here. Keturah called, her voice cutting through the din. I'm right here. Silence fell abruptly as all eyes snapped to her. The man wavered, confusion crossing his features. But they said you were meant to stay hidden. To protect the truth. His breath came in quick gasps, words tumbling out. You don't belong here, Keturah. They're coming. Who is coming? What have you seen? She pressed, stepping forward, her heart pounding fiercely. It felt as if a cosmic force had gathered to push her deeper into a destiny she had long tried to avoid. They lurk in the shadows, he stammered. The ones who want to bury the legacy of Abraham's lies. I felt their eyes on me. I had to warn you. The wind howled, mimicking the collective dread that had gripped the crowd. Eyes widened, a new fear creeping in. Was this man speaking madness, or was there truth buried in his words? They've hunted us, Keturah. We are the last line of defense against those who would erase Abraham's sins. They mean to silence the truth forever. His voice crescendoed, urgent and raw. They'll stop at nothing to keep you from revealing what lies in the scroll. Keturah's heart sank. The chilling prospect of an unseen enemy sent icy fingers creeping down her spine. Another figure stepped from the shadows, cloaked like the others but different. This one felt alive with intent. It moved closer, the air thickening with palpable menace. Keturah's mind raced. What had she unearthed? What price would be exacted for opening this Pandora's box? The scroll was meant to educate and empower. Yet here she stood, at the precipice of chaos. Choices resonated around her, the kind that could alter their very existence. What do we do? Someone called from the crowd, fear lacing their tone. More heads turned toward Keturah, desperate for answers, the weight of 1,000 eyes pressing upon her shoulders. Time seemed to stretch, every heartbeat echoing like a drum. Could she lead them into the storm, or would revelation drown them all? At that moment, her world split into endless possibilities, and dread mingled with resolve spiraled within her. "Stand with me," Keturah declared, louder than before, letting authority seep through her voice. "Together, we'll face the truth. Together, we'll reclaim our history. Are you with me?" Declarations of support erupted, a swell of voices rising against the darkness. Yet, uncertainty flickered like smoke, shadows lurking just beyond the line of firelight. The hooded figure paused now, fixing Keturah with an intensity that sent chills down her spine. "You think you can vanquish what is entrenched in the very soil you stand upon? We are the guardians of the past, but the price of awakening it is steep." A thunderous rumble underscored the words, nature itself seeming to rebel. Keturah's breath caught. They had awakened something ancient and powerful. In that electrifying instant, it became crystal clear, standing against a tidal wave of history. Wouldn't he come? Without sacrifice, could she afford to step into the shadows, to face the grim truths of their ancestry? Would they emerge intact, or would the lines that defined them shatter into fragments lost in the wind? At that moment, the earth trembled, a sign of what was to come. "Will you still follow me?" she shouted, her heart drumming in her chest, threatened yet unwavering. But as the crowd held its breath, eager for her resolve, another thud emerged from the forest, closer now. It was not just an echo, but a promise of chaos and secrets clawing to break free. What had been summoned, and what would it demand? A gasp rippled through the crowd as the ground shook once more, the thud now reverberating beneath their feet with a growing intensity. Keturah's breath hitched, adrenaline coursing through her veins. People shifted anxiously, torn between the pull of her words and the primal instinct to flee from the impending doom. "Stay close," she commanded, her voice steady despite the raging storm inside her. The man who had warned her looked at her with wide eyes, a mix of admiration and fear flickering across his face. She caught his gaze and, for a moment, she felt a flicker of hope. He believed in her. The cloaked figure, still just a shadow, took another step toward her, the air around it thickening as it did. "You open doors that should remain sealed. To awaken the past is to invite its wrath. Do you understand the gravity of your choice?" Keturah swallowed hard. "I have to know the truth. Even if it costs me everything." Something shifted in the atmosphere, growing heavier as twilight deepened into darkness. The crowd pressed tighter, the warmth of their bodies a stark contrast against the chill that wrapped around Keturah like a shroud. She could sense their fear, a collective, tightening knot in her stomach. Suddenly, the figure flung back its hood, revealing a face more ancient than time itself. Its eyes glowed, piercing through the dim light, a haunting combination of wisdom and menace. "You are brave yet foolish, Keturah. The legacy of Abraham is as scarred as the earth beneath your feet. You grasp at the roots, unaware of the thorns." A murmur of shock swept through the crowd, a ripple of unease spreading. "What do you mean?" Keturah demanded, her voice unwavering despite the electric fear dancing on her skin. "They whispered the truth long before you were born," the figure replied, each word laced with gravitas. "Your very existence is an echo of the choices made by those who came before you. You're not merely the seeker, you are a key." Keturah's mind raced, the fragments of her lineage colliding in a chaotic swirl. A key? To what? To the unholy pact that birthed lies among the faithful, twisting the very roots of your people. They fought for power, and your blood holds the answer hidden within the scroll. Panic clawed at her. "Then they'll kill me to keep me from revealing it." "Perhaps. But even in your death, the truth will seep through the cracks. It cannot be buried forever. A loud crash echoed from the shadows, and the ground quaked again, louder this time. Keturah lost her footing, falling to her knees. The townspeople gasped, their eyes darting toward the darkness. What is happening? Someone yelled, their voice trembling. Whatever is awakening, it seeks you. The cloaked figure proclaimed. You must choose, Keturah. Face the past now or let it destroy what remains of your future. A blinding flash illuminated the forest, a sudden burst of light that illuminated the depths of the woods for a fleeting moment. In the brightness, forms shifted, a multitude of figures, spectral and grotesque, began to emerge from the shadows. The air thickened with an overwhelming sense of dread. Get back! Keturah screamed, scrambling to her feet. Her heart raced as she pushed through the mass of bodies crowding in fear. We have to retreat. But the cloaked figure remained, steady and resolute. No retreat. The truth requires a reckoning, and it is upon you. What will you choose? As Keturah looked back, the crowd had already begun to retreat, fear stripping away their hope. Was her courage enough? The spectral figures surged forth, the shadows framing their monstrous forms echoing Keturah's inner turmoil. Can you stand against what lies ahead, Keturah? The figure pressed, its voice resonating in the depths of her soul. What will it cost? She whispered, the enormity of this moment clamping down on her chest. Only the weight of your lineage will you bear it. The darkness danced closer, illegible whispers and taunts clawing at the edges of her mind, demanding acknowledgement. The space pulsed with energy, each thud now a heartbeat, coiling tighter. She had to decide what path to take. The stakes had never been higher. With a final, gut-wrenching tremor, Keturah could feel history closing in around her, the steep price of truth weighing heavily in the air. But there was something lurking just beyond the shadows, something even more sinister. What did it want from Keturah? And would she truly be able to face whatever emerged from those depths? Keturah felt a surge of energy as the spectral figures loomed closer, their ghostly faces morphing in the dim light. They were whispering now half-formed words filled with hunger and despair. She could hear the moans of the lost, the rage of the forgotten, a cacophony swirling around her. No! Stay back! Keturah shouted, hands raised, but her defiance felt small against the tide of the past closing in. The cloaked figure remained at her side, unwavering. You must confront what you fear, it urged, its ethereal voice a stark contrast to the chaos. The power thrumming through your blood is not a curse, but a gift. Embrace it. With each breath, Keturah could feel the ground trembling, each pulse matching the frantic beating of her heart. She was a key, but what kind of lock awaited her? The shadows writhed, twisting into forms both familiar and strange. Flashes of faces flickered past her vision, ancestors she had never met, their pain intermingled with hers. Face them. The figure commanded, its voice cutting through the din. Keturah's stomach twisted. Face what? She cried, desperation flooding her voice. What do you want from me? Your truth is bound to theirs. Only by embracing this lineage can you mend the fractures in the earth beneath you. The whispers yearned for recognition, Keturah. The ground shook violently, and Keturah nearly lost her balance again. The townspeople had retreated, their figures dimming into the background, mere shadows of support. All that remained was the figure beside her, shimmering with ancient wisdom. No more running, Keturah muttered, her voice low, trembling with newfound resolve. She stepped forward, fear and determination battling within her. In a moment of radical clarity, Keturah understood that the truth must be faced, not just for her sake, but for those who had gone silent before her. What do I do? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper, churning with the weight of destiny. Claim who you are, the cloaked figure replied, stepping back, revealing a hidden relic, a scroll, glowing softly in the darkness. It lies within this. The knowledge you seek. The stories they would bury. As Keturah reached for it, the ground shuddered again, and the air thickened with tension. The figures surged forward, their eyes filled with equal parts rage and sorrow. Hands stretched out toward her, grasping for the understanding that had long eluded them. One figure stood out, a woman whose face mirrored Keturah's own. "Do not mistake the past for your future," the woman whispered, her voice echoing through the noise. Keturah's heart raced. She knew this woman. This was her ancestor, the one whose choices had forged a path steeped in shadow. Anger rose within her. "You made a pact, didn't you? A choice to protect your own at the cost of the truth." The specter nodded, her face a mask of pain. "We believed silence would shield you. But silence bears a heavier cost. Tell me." Keturah shouted, her rage igniting. "Tell me the truth." The air thickened with tension, the figures moving closer, their collective whispers creating a storm of voices. "You must choose." The cloaked figure urged, intensity building. "Will you accept the past as truth and embrace your legacy, or let fear dictate your fate?" Keturah felt the weight of generations pressing upon her. Could she truly unravel the tangled threads of history she was born to mend? The power surged within her, igniting a fire that burned hot, demanding release. And as she made her decision, the shadows twisted and turned, warping into something darker. What emerged next was beyond anything she had ever imagined. "Will you, Keturah, become the harbinger of your own fate?" The cloaked figure's voice echoed ominously. In that moment, the ground trembled violently as if preparing to swallow her whole. What awaited Keturah beneath the weight of her ancestors' choices? Would she be the one to unveil their secrets, or was she destined to become a part of the very story she sought to change? Keturah's hand trembled as it extended towards the glowing relic. The ancient scroll pulsed beneath her fingertips, vibrating with a warm energy that felt alive. The moment she touched it, a rush of clarity surged through her, images flashing like scenes from a long-forgotten dream. She could see her ancestors standing before her, their faces wrought with history, pain, and a flicker of hope, but the moment of connection fractured as screams erupted around her. The spectral crowd surged forward, a tide of shadow and sorrow, pinning her in place. They reached for her, reaching past the veil that separated their world from hers. A part of her wanted to recoil, the echo of their despair clawing at her heart. "Listen to me. I've come to understand," she yelled, forcing her voice to cut through the din. The faces swirled in the darkness, some contorted with rage, others pleading. The woman who mirrored Keturah's features stepped closer, her eyes wide and desperate. "You have to choose, Keturah," the specter cried, her voice rising above the chaos. "Will you free us or let us consume you?" Keturah's chest tightened. Was this what her lineage had led to? A legacy bound in chains? "What do you want from me?" Tears burned in her eyes. "I can't save you if I don't know what I'm saving you from." The woman pointed a gaunt finger toward the scroll that still pulsed on the ground. "Within lies the truth, the pact we made. If you dare to read it, the power will break the cycle, and the past will rise anew or remain forever shackled." Keturah hesitated. The words of the cloaked figure echoed in her mind, urging her to embrace her power. Could she bear the weight of the truth? Would it shatter her or empower her to break free from the chains forged generations ago? The whispers grew louder, a tempest of voices blurring into one haunting melody of despair. "You must know, you must understand." Keturah pulled the scroll close, its warmth seeping into her skin. She could feel the vibrations of centuries of silence binding her. The visions swirled, images of betrayal and broken promises flashing fast, abandonment, fear, and a dark bargain sealed under the moon's watchful gaze. "Embrace it," the cloaked figure urged again, the intensity of its presence palpable as the shadows writhed around Keturah, eager for release. Taking a deep breath, Keturah unfurled the scroll. The moment the ancient parchment opened, a shockwave rippled through the air, a screech of rebirth echoing as ethereal forms recoiled and shifted. Words danced before her eyes, each one a key unlocking the past, each revelation more shocking than the last. "No." Keturah gasped, the cold dread wrapping around her heart. This can't be true. We were supposed to be free. Around her, the figured faces twisted in agony, their moans morphed into a haunting chorus that rose like smoke, suffocating the reality around her. Some figures began to vanish, their anger replaced with sorrow. Keturah felt their pain as if it were her own, a heavy cloak draped over her shoulders. What they buried beneath lies, the woman whispered, her voice trembling. Will you make the choice to expose the shame, Keturah? Will you grant us peace, or will you carry this darkness as our legacy? Keturah's heart raced as the weight of her ancestors' grief bore down on her. As she stood on the precipice of revelation, the ground beneath her quaked violently once again. Reality teetered, and she could feel the pull of the old pact. In that split second, she realized the truth wasn't just about her ancestors, it was about her, about who she could become, the power she could wield. Just then, a blinding light erupted from the scroll, piercing through the shadows like a beacon. And in the midst of the chaos, Keturah knew she had to choose, to reveal the past or let it be lost forever. The light flickered, and in the silence that followed, Keturah breathed deeply, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. Would she become the voice that broke the silence, or would the darkness reclaim her? Keturah shielded her eyes as the blinding light enveloped her, wrapping her in a cocoon of warmth and brilliance. The ethereal glow whispered secrets, the air around her thick with history that begged to be unveiled. She barely registered the chilling wails of the spirits fading, their desperate cries transforming into ghostly echoes that danced around her. With a pounding heart, she focused on the parchment. The words glowed brighter, each one bursting with meaning. As they unfurled before her, Keturah's fears collided with her courage. What if this knowledge was more than she could bear? Yet to expose sounded like an invitation, a challenge to break the chains of her ancestors' anguish. What lies in the shadows will shape your fate, she murmured, the text weaving a narrative deeper than she could have imagined. The scroll began to reveal the pact made generations ago, a bitter bargain that entwined her family's fate with a darkness they could neither escape nor fully understand. Suddenly, a figure stepped from the light, indistinguishable from the shadows. It was a man, tall and cloaked, yet familiarity lingered in his eyes that mirrored her own. Keturah, he spoke, his voice a mere whisper yet echoing through her skull. Who are you? She stuttered, the fear tightening her throat. I am the one bound to your blood, he replied, sorrow etched across his sharp features. The one who paid the price for our legacy. I made the pact to protect our future, but it has become our prison. Your prison? Keturah felt her stomach churn. Why? Because we lived with lies. I fought to shield you from the truth and instead have placed this burden upon you. His shadowy figure flickered, as though he might fade into oblivion. To reveal it could mean your liberation, but it could also spell your doom. The word struck Keturah like a slap. Could truth really be that powerful? She glanced at the scroll, kneeling beside it as if it was her only ally left. Would peeling back layers of betrayal free her from this cycle? Or would it bring forth a darker force eager to reclaim its hold? Suddenly, the ground rumbled violently beneath her feet, jarring her from her thoughts. Tendrils of shadow crept closer, driven by a malevolent energy that threatened to drag her down. You've awakened the past, Keturah. They sense it, and they are angry, the man warned, stepping closer. Leave. I will not be your prisoner. She shouted, the power within her surging, battling against the rising horror. With a flick of her wrist, the scroll flared, absorbing the darkness threatening her. The spirits shrieked in fury, their once silent rage spilling forth like lava. Keturah had awakened something ancient, something that clawed at her very essence, tempting her to succumb to despair. In that chaos, she spotted the woman who resembled her, a guardian spirit, an ancestor nodding with determined approval. You hold the key, Keturah. Choose wisely. Trembling but resolute, Keturah braced herself for the onslaught. She had the scroll, the truth, and the choice to face the devastating consequences. As the light swelled around her, the screams of the oppressed and the furious blended into a cacophony that danced through her mind, pulling her deeper into the vortex of the past. The shadows lunged, and Keturah snapped her gaze back to the scroll. Would stripping away the lies grant her the power to vanquish the darkness once and for all, or would it unleash something within her she could never control? Just then, she felt the tug of fate, a choice hanging in the air, heavy with potential and peril. "I will reveal what must be known," she declared, her heart racing with anticipation at what lay ahead. But would she be able to handle the weight of her own family's dark truth? The answer felt like a ghostly whisper, echoing around her as the light began to dim. The ground trembled ominously once more, warning her of what was yet to come. Keturah felt the air shift, charged with an energy that crackled like electricity. The scroll pulsated beneath her fingers, and the whispers of her ancestors swirled around her, growing louder, more insistent. Each breath felt heavy, almost suffocating, as if the very fabric of reality was unraveling. "Choose." The cloaked figure's voice resonated, torn between urgency and despair. "You must choose now." The shadows lunged, cascading over her as tendrils snatched at her limbs, but she stood her ground. Her heart thudded in her chest, echoing the chaos around her. Memories began to flood her mind, faces of those who came before her, sorrow etched in their features, their lives tethered to this curse. Their pleas reverberated through her, merging into a singular cry that pierced through the darkness. "I won't let your pain be in vain," Keturah shouted, closing her eyes. The brightness of her resolve wove a shield against the oppressive shadows. She focused on the scroll, feeling the pulse of its energy synchronize with her heartbeat. With a sudden surge of conviction, she unrolled the parchment wider. The letters shimmered, bold and alive, as the air thickened around her. Images rushed forth, visions of her ancestors sealing the pact with something dark and terrible, a being that thrived on fear and despair. Flashes of betrayal and loss engulfed her in a wave of sorrow. They had traded their freedom for safety, but it only tangled them deeper in agony. Each moment became a reminder of the power she held. "No more secrets," she screamed, her voice piercing the storm of shadows. "I will reclaim our legacy." The scroll flared as if responding to her wrath, projecting a blinding light that drowned out the darkness for a moment. The shadows recoiled, screeching in rage, their fury like a tempest against her brilliance. Keturah felt the pull of the abyss, the weight of generations pressing down on her shoulders. But with every ounce of strength, she grasped the truth tightly, wrapping herself in it like armor. Suddenly, the shining words transformed, revealing a new passage stitched into the fabric of the scroll. "In the unveiling, a choice shall emerge, but beware the cost," it read. "What does that mean?" she whispered, panic bubbling beneath her courage. The air thinned around her, and she felt as though she were teetering on the edge of a precipice. The cloaked figure stepped forward, urgency etched on his face. "You are the last hope, Keturah, but you must decide carefully. The truth will strip away the lies, but it could also awaken the very thing that shackled us. You could lose everything, even your own sanity." Keturah's heart raced. "What do you want me to do?" "Ask the right questions, seek what lies beneath the surface. The truth may lead to liberation or destruction." His expression flickered between hope and despair. "Once you pull at the strings, there is no turning back. You will know who to trust and who will betray you." He extended his hand, and instinctively, she reached for it. Just then, the shadows recoiled in turmoil, as if sensing the shift. A piercing scream erupted from the depths, a voice familiar yet terrifying, echoing through the air. "Stop! You're not ready!" It shrieked, forcing Keturah to freeze. The urge to obey battled with the need to press on. Gathering her courage, Keturah frowned defiantly, her eyes narrowing. "I will not be intimidated. I am ready to face whatever lies ahead." The walls of light flickered, quaking around the edges as if the universe awaited her decision with bated breath. The pulse quickened, shadows creeping closer, their whispers morphing into a dizzying whirlpool of words: promise, danger, truth. And as her hand clasped the figure's, a surge of power ignited beneath her skin, a sudden clarity dazzling in its intensity. But would the truth grant her liberation, or would it unravel her very essence? With shadows closing in, she felt something sinister shift within her, a force awakened by her declaration. An ancient memory flashed across her mind, a revelation swirling in the light, a name. Abraham. The connection set off a chain reaction, and she gasped as the vision crystallized into understanding. The danger was more personal than she had ever imagined. What had he sacrificed? She murmured. But before she could unravel that thread, a storm of darkness crashed upon her, marking the beginning of a terrifying truth buried beneath centuries. What had Keturah awoken, and would she survive its terrible consequences? The air crackled with anticipation, burdened by the weight of Keturah's unresolved past. Shadows clawed at her mind, desperate to distract her from the path ahead. Gazing down at the unfolding scroll, Keturah felt it pulse with energy, its words glowing like embers in the dark. The realization pierced her heart. The secrets locked within were not merely about her ancestors, they were her own destiny wrapped in chains of silence and deception. Stop! She cried to the haunting voices swirling in the shadows, their whispers clawing at her resolve. You will not bind me anymore. With shaking hands, she steadied the parchment, reading the words printed on its surface. Every letter ignited a memory. Abraham, his choices, his burdens, they echoed through her like a thunderstorm, each echo a reminder of the power hidden within her. What did you sacrifice? She whispered. What truth did you bury? The figures that had been only assassins of her past began to flicker, their faces transformed. They were not just lost souls, they were witnesses to Keturah's awakening. You have kindled hope. The woman who mirrored her own face exclaimed, eyes gleaming with newfound approval. Keturah's heart surged, emboldened by that spark. I will reclaim your story, she declared, her voice fierce against the din around her. Lightning cracked across the sky, illuminating the darkness that pressed against her. In that flash, she felt connected to the women and men who had walked before her, to the struggles they endured, and to the sweat, tears, and courage that shaped their lives. I will not allow your sacrifices to be for nothing. With that declaration, she drew upon the essence of her lineage, combining despair, strength, and love. The scroll reacted as if recognizing her intent, glowing fervently, its warmth washing over her like a wave of reassurance. Face them. The cloaked figure urged, stepping back, an intense look of hope flashing across his face. Bring the truth to light. The spirits began to align behind her, a ghostly host gathering strength from her presence. Keturah took a deep breath and lifted the scroll high, letting its light pierce through the shroud of shadows encircling her. These are not just my ancestors, they are my family. You will not keep them silent. The energy crackled, and a roar erupted from the darkness. Figures surged forward, twisted with rage, seeking to extinguish the light she summoned. But Keturah stood firm, calling forth the power rooted deep in her blood. You will no longer twist our legacy. The shadows hesitated, the roots of their strength waning against her light. Keturah began to weave the truths from the scroll into the air, each word sparking a revelation. Abraham made a choice, but so must we all. I will not inherit fear or shame. With every sentence she spoke, the figures began to flicker more erratically, anger shifting into something else, something resembling clarity. The encroaching darkness seemed to slip away, pushed back by her determination. See this. She roared, the scroll now radiant, pulsing with an intensity that lit up the clearing. We are not defined by our ghosts, we are shaped by the choices we make moving forward. Slowly, the spirits began to transform, their faces softening, the anger dissipating as hope filled the air. You've awakened us. The mirrored woman praised, stepping forward. You've unlocked the legacy we sought to protect. With light illuminating her path, Keturah pressed on, embracing her ancestors. Together, we will rewrite history. Together, we will break the chains. The darkness fell back, a thunderous retreat as her voice reached a crescendo, a glorious proclamation that shattered the silence shrouding them for centuries. As she leaned deeper into her heritage, echoes of laughter mingled with sobs, blending into a chorus that resonated through the woods. then silence fell heavily. The scroll, now warm against her skin, released a final, haunting echo, a promise that those lost would never truly be forgotten. With a shudder, Keturah closed her eyes, feeling a mix of grief and determination wash over her. "I will remember," she murmured, each word a vow. As she stood, the figures began to coalesce into forms of light, brightening the clearing, illuminating the trees. Faces formed, smiling people who had been trapped in the silence of history. Keturah. They breathed, a unified chorus of gratitude. "Thank you." In that moment, Keturah realized the shadows were not gone, but transformed. She had embraced the complexity of their story, the sacrifices and the burdens, and turned it into a legacy of empowerment. The wind rustled around them, tending to the newfound hope. Keturah looked onward, her heart racing, pumped with excitement and purpose. And now let us truly live. As dawn broke on the horizon, the shadows began to fade, replaced with warmth. The past would always linger, but no longer would it haunt her or her people. They had chosen to embrace their truth, allowing it to define who they would become. Keturah turned toward the waking world, pulse steady, spirit ignited by the whispers of her ancestors. They would no longer be forgotten. Together, they would forge a new narrative, one built on strength, love, and the lessons learned from the past, and with that understanding came a calming peace, the promise of a new dawn illuminating the path ahead. But the journey was just beginning. Keturah felt the urgency to share what she had uncovered with others, with every town, every soul she could reach. History was not just her burden, it was a shared legacy, a narrative deserving of expression and retelling. So, be sure you don't miss out. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to support this channel, only true fans understand the importance of staying connected.